Can Alabama run the table again in 2021? Will it be another undefeated season? They'll have to go 15-0 this time if they will make it all the way and run the table and win the national championship. Only 13 games last year, still very respectable. But 15-0 is what you would have to do this year, and we're going to give you a projected record based on the schedule for Alabama. I want to be clear, this is not an official prediction for me. This is simply a projection based on the odds to win each game, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Again, here's the schedule. 13-0 last year, looking to go 15-0 this year, which I think is going to be tough. I think it's going to be tougher than it was last year, especially when you just look at this team not being as good. But also just the schedule, having to go through Florida in the regular season and then Georgia. Really tough team this year, plus some tricky games. Ole Miss, Texas A&M on the road at Auburn. There are plenty of areas where Alabama could trip up, but they will be favored in all of these games, and this is the scale that I'm using this year. I did change it a little bit from last year. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense this year. So the games that we leave in white, those are going to be games where I think the odds are between 41 and 59%, basically 50-50 games. And then we go from the bottom up. If it's less than 10%, it'll be in red, 10 to 25% orange, 26 to 40% yellow, 60 to 74% purple, 75% to 90% blue, and if it's greater than 90%, then I'm going to put it in green. So that's how we're going to kind of classify these games, and it's not perfect. I haven't done all the research on these teams, and there could be a game where I put it in the 26 to 40% category here, or the 10% to 25% category. And obviously I'm not going to do that for Alabama, but for another team possibly, where I have them not winning based on these percentages. But I could turn around and on my official predictions change and make that a win for that team, because again, this is not an official prediction. It's a very early look based on recent history, based on how these teams performed last year and what they have coming back. It's just a projection really based on how hard their schedule is. So we'll do this for all the teams, but we're going to start with those green games, those 90% or more, 90% plus games, and or more than 90%, I guess I should say. Mercer, Southern Miss, Tennessee, and New Mexico State. And yes, Tennessee, an SEC opponent, is in green here. I think they're going to be terrible this year. I'm sorry, Tennessee fans, but you haven't beaten Alabama in, I guess, since Nick Saban has been there. The game's in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee, this is going to be one of their worst teams. There's just no chance Tennessee wins that game. There is a greater chance that Mississippi State or Arkansas beats Alabama this year. It's just not going to happen from Tennessee. I'm sorry. The only SEC teams I'd probably put here would be Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Those would be the two teams where I'd say they have no chance to beat Alabama. None. So that's close to 99% for me, even though it's over 90%. And all four of these games really are right there at like 99%. All right, so the games here in blue, these are going to be the games, again, that are 75 to 90%. Games where Alabama should be favored by double digits, probably it's a couple touchdowns, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on the game. Games that Alabama should be able to win, and they wouldn't. I mean, they'd be a pretty big shock if Alabama were to lose any of these games. Miami, all of these are not equal. Some are going to be closer to 75%, some are going to be closer to 90%. Mississippi State and Arkansas, closer to 90%. Auburn and Miami and LSU, closer to 75%. But we have to kind of group these all together. We only have so many colors that we can use, so we can only kind of group these in different categories. But again, it's not all the same. Miami is a game where it could be interesting. De'Aaron King, that Miami offense, they should be able to score some in this one, but are they going to be able to keep up with Alabama? Probably not. And again, Alabama should be favored by a lot. Mississippi State, Alabama should be favored by a lot here as well. You do have to deal with the Cowbells. It is a road game. I guess you never know. LSU will have a high-powered offense if they can stay healthy, bring everybody back. They have a lot of returning starters this year, so this is going to be a challenge for Alabama. Like I said, it's going to be closer to 75%. But with the game being in Tuscaloosa, I would just be really surprised if LSU is able to win this game. I think Alabama should be favored by double digits in this one. Just go back to last year and look at how easily they won. And then Arkansas, another game, go back to last year. Alabama won that game easily. Arkansas should be better. They bring back a lot more than, say, Alabama does. But still, the game's at home. It would be a huge surprise if Alabama were to lose this game. And Auburn's kind of the wild card here. It's the Iron Bowl. It's on the road. You never know what you're going to get in these games. So that one could be in the green, should be in the green, where there's no chance Auburn wins, and it could be a 50-50 game. We just don't know what Auburn's going to look like. But right now, this early, I think it's pretty safe to put it in this category, somewhere between 75 and 90% chance for Alabama to win. That leaves 3 games. We have Florida on the road, we have Ole Miss, and we have Texas A&M on the road. These, in my opinion, are going to be the 3 most difficult games for Alabama this year, in the regular season, that is. Florida's going to lose. They lose a lot. They're going to drop off more than likely. But they do have Emory Jones back at quarterback, a dual threat guy, and we know Alabama has struggled defensively in the past against dual threat quarterbacks. It's just a fact. Florida's defense may not be able to slow Alabama down, but Alabama, again, new quarterback, no Devontae Smith, no Najee Harris, new offensive coordinator. They could be a little sluggish early in the year. So this is a potential game that could be pretty close. In the swamp, tough environment. This, again, if we have all the fans back next year, this is going to be a very tough place to play, and this is going to be a challenge for Alabama, in my opinion. But I do think they're the better team. And then Ole Miss is a team that we saw what they could do last year. With Lane Kiffin calling the shots, this offense can score points, and even against Alabama, they can score points. Now, I know Alabama got a lot better after that game, but this is, again, a pretty early season game. It's only the 5th game of the year, and we'll see, how good these teams are at this point. But I just think Ole Miss is the type of team that could challenge Alabama defensively, and this could wind up being another shootout. And then you have Texas A&M. That game also, I think, is going to be a challenge. On the road, very tough place to play. We'll see what the quarterback looks like for A&M. What does Haynes King look like? Is he potentially another Johnny Manziel type for the Aggies? Dual threat guy, could give Alabama some trouble, just like Emory Jones at Florida. So that, to me, is a challenging game. On the road, yeah, they lost some guys, A&M did, but they have a decent amount coming back, and I think the defense will be pretty good for them. So I think that also will be a challenge for Alabama. But let's face it, all 3 of these games, these are games that Alabama will be favored in. And the games that are going to be games where a team is favored by about a touchdown, those are going to be in purple, and that's where we find these 3 games. I think they're all in that 60 to 74% category. I think Alabama will be favored. They'll be favored by about a touchdown in all 3. Again, the percentages are not all equal. A&M and Florida probably closer to 60%. Ole Miss probably closer to 74%. But we just have to kind of group them together. So the way we get the projected record, anything that's 75% or above is counted as a win. 25% or less is counted as a loss. And then we average out the rest of the games. If it's in the yellow, we use a 40% number. If it's in the white, which Alabama has no 50-50 games, it's considered a 50-50 game. And then in the purple, we use 60%. We use those 3 percentages, we average them out, and we kind of get a projected record based on the schedule. Again, this is not an official prediction. It is simply a projection based off of this schedule. So when you average out those 3 games, that's going to put Alabama right there around 11-1. So the projected record for the Tide, 11-1. Worst case scenario, based off of this, would probably be around 10-2. But this is a team that could go 12-0. They will be favored in all of these games, in my opinion. So it would not be a surprise at all to see Alabama run the table and go 12-0. But based off the schedule, based off of there being enough games that potentially could trip up Alabama, based off of all of that, the projection does give them 1 loss. So 11-1, the projected record for Alabama in 2021. I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think they're going to do? What do you think the record is going to look like? Can they do it again? Can they run the table once again? Or did they just lose too much? Give me your projection, your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here from SG1 Sports.